Greetings, adventurers. I'm DM Kurt, and I have a hammer. Now, this is not a medieval authentic hammer, nor is it even my favorite hammer. My favorite hammer would be a Estwing framing hammer, but that's not the point. So, last night I was listening to a show which talked about something called the London Hammer. It was found in 1936 in or near London, Texas. The people who found it embedded in a piece of rock that was supposedly 150 million years old, coming from that particular time period, and geology, blah 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 blah. The Supposedly they got it tested by a metallurgist. They got it tested by someone who did carbon dating. There's no record of the carbon dating or the metallurgy testing having ever been done, but they claimed that it was done, and it had these wacky percentages. It was very, very high iron, a little bit of sulfur, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And if you believe those claims, then you have evidence of a pre-flood civilization hundreds of millions of years ago. Wow, But more likely, there was a crack in the rock, and somebody in the 1800s dropped this hammer into the crack, went, oops, oh well, or lost it off the back of a wagon and it fell into the crack in the rocks, and then water and minerals flooded into the same crack, and it basically concretified into this crack in the limestone or sandstone. But that got me thinking, okay, so you have this little hammerhead that's 6 inches long by about 1 inch diameter. It looks like a 1800s mining hammer. It has a little short piece of wooden handle still stuck through it and then busted off, and the edge is kind of turned to coal a little bit, supposedly. But the owners are not letting anybody examine it. Okay. I mean, you have two competing theories. The theory is that it's basically just an ordinary hammer that fell in a crack, or it's evidence of this wildly, basically cavemen with metallurgy civilization, which is probably bunk. But it got me thinking, what if this was a magic item for D&D? Okay, what kind of magic items can we come up with from this little story? Well, the first, let's say that there's a +2 Warhammer, okay? It's created by the dwarves or the gnomes, and it gives the bearer the ability to pass through stone or earth as if it's water, just basically swim through it. Rules for holding your breath will apply. And if you let go of the hammer, you lose the power to move through, and you're stuck inside of a solid object. You're pretty screwed. You're either flat out dead, depending on which edition of D&D we're talking about, or you are forcibly expelled, taking 10d10 force damage. 5e allows you an escape, huh? Okay, and let's say that the bearer, a gnome or dwarf or whatever, their stronghold was being overrun. They were in a dead-end space. They knew that at this end of the tunnel there was no area they could get to safely with this hammer to take it to safely, and they to take it to safety, and they could not fight their way through the horde. And if they were killed with this hammer in their hand, then the bad guys get the hammer, and you really don't want goblins who are able to bypass stone walls. That'd be a very bad thing. So instead, I took the hammer, grabbed it, pushed their hand through, let go, lost their hand, drew their other weapon, and fought to the bitter end, getting cut down. You got a heroic story, and you have an explanation for the hammer inside the rock. We're not talking Arthurian, but you can't do sword in the stone, you get to be the king over and over again, because that story's already been told. You got to come up with something slightly different. And I think that one would be a good one. You got it yourself +2 Warhammer and the ability to pass through walls. Pretty cool magic item. But I had another idea, and this would be rather off the wall. So bear with me. First, during your campaign start, you got to tell the players, hey, ask the players, hey, how do you guys feel about if I come up with a completely different campaign setting, a bunch of custom monsters, a bunch of custom magic items are going to be different. Um, there is going to be some difficulty in getting resupplied. So once you embark, you may never get some of the same equipment again, and there may be, language difficulties with some of the people you meet, etc. Going to be a little off the wall, going to be a little different at some point. If they buy into that, say, hey, yeah, sure, cool. You want to throw us somewhere weird? Let's go. So you let somebody get a hold of this +2 Warhammer. It's going to have to be a fairly decent leveled party that are up to, facing big critters. And you say, okay, well, when you activate this hammer, that castle that was 50 paces away just disappears. You find yourself in basically an open field with tall trees and brush everywhere. It's pretty overgrown. The storms overhead are wild. You see, some of the clouds are shaped like dragons, and they appear lightning and thunder, and they appear to be fighting against some amorphous other shaped things. It's kind of hard to tell. Maybe you're in the Feywild or something. I don't know, man. But it's wild, and there's the lightning is different colors, and there's weird glows behind the trees, and they're like, whoa, that's pretty cool. All right, but okay, so I'm gonna move 75 paces because we kind of want to get in that castle, right? Go 75 paces, deactivate the hammer, boom, you're inside the castle. You just passed through the walls of the castle. Okay, cool. And you're pretty sure you traversed the Feywild to do it. Okay, cool. You go about your things. They try that a few times, and you say, hey, you're kind of thinking that maybe it might be a bad idea to try this in a dungeon, because if you're in an area that's been excavated and you try to pass through the Feywild version, you're kind of skipping into the border ethereal. The one over there might not have been excavated out. You might be going into solid rock, and that might not be a great idea to just kind of skip from one plane of existence to another and end up in a wrong thing. Okay, cool. But they try it, they use the hammer again. And you want to grab the whole party all together and go through something. Okay, cool. Once again, all the man-made objects disappear. And you're out in the wilds. And you move through to whatever. And then you try to deactivate the hammer, but it's out of charges and you're stuck here. And the party has to explore. Now we're skipping the combat for now. We're going to do exploration, and then they find out, hey, there's kind of primordial, stuff going on here. You see the giant spear from the heavens come down and crack a mountain in half. Making a what do you call that? You see the same spear jab at the trees, creating the forest and creating a marshland. Orcs pile out of each, and you're like, oh, that's the creation mythos story of the orcs. Oh, what's going on here? Yeah, the thing was, you guys transported, back in time. You weren't going from the prime material to the Feywild. You're actually going back in time and then walking across and then coming back out. You're moving in time and then moving in space and then moving in time again. Now you're stuck in the Stone Age. So now you got to face Stone Age type creatures. First of all, dinosaurs. Right on. But then elementals and titans and maybe some of the avatars of the deities themselves are still walking the earth. You probably warned the player characters, hey, later on in this campaign, some of y'all, your deities may have a more direct influence in the world. And some of you may not have any contact with your deity at all, or your patron for the warlock. So now you're going to have to create this Stone Age world, and you're going to have Stone Age adventure. Remember, this is a medium to high level party. They're going to face all kinds of weird, crazy looking things that were rendered extinct. You can get some Lovecraftian stuff going on in there for them to defeat, and then they have to maybe, maybe knock the orcs back a couple pegs so that the young cave humans can actually get their start in the world, and that the dwarves and the elves can survive to propagate and create their own kingdoms. Maybe the halflings are maybe some of the first races to domesticate animals, so they have like dire wolves and stuff. Your dwarves, maybe they're the first ones to start working on bronze working. So now you've used this magic item to start a whole new campaign. Maybe that's a little bizarre, but anyway, that's just 2 ideas for magic items that I got off of just watching Ancient Aliens, talking about the London Hammer, which you can find on Wikipedia. You can find on a handful of YouTube videos, people talking about it. It looks like it's basically a hoax, and I don't want to say hoax as in intentionally misleading people. I think it's more of a misunderstanding based on people kind of drawing the conclusions that they wanted to hear. But that's just a little something for today. DM Kurt, out.